Hello, my name is Yasmin Euphemia, aka Sugar, and I'm here tonight with.
I am Beverly. I am your UK fluffy chick, and together we are the founders of Support a Sis-Star Network, where our main aim is to highlight and showcase all the wonderful things in our Sis-Star community. And this evening with us, we have TeeCee. Hi, TeeCee.
Hello, ladies. Lovely to
Hello,
see you.
TeeCee. Nice to see you again.
Yeah,
Okay,
been a while.
Right,
okay
it's
then.
been a while.
So, Miss TeeCee, um, who is TeeCee and what is TeeCee going to showcase with us this evening?
Okay, so I am a nutritionist. I spent about 10 years working for government in the area of food law, the legislation that ensures that food is safe to eat and that labeling tells consumers what they need to know and that claims made on foods aren't misleading, although obviously they are because the law is really badly drafted. But that's a separate thing. And then spent about 10 years working for a trade association that represented the manufacturers of over the counter medicines and food supplements. And I worked on the food supplement side. And I helped really big companies with formulation and what they could and couldn't put in their products and what they could and couldn't say about their products and marketing and what they absolutely had to put on the label and what they were not allowed to put on the label and just before the pandemic hit, um, uh, things got a bit complicated, and I ended up leaving my post. So I was kind of a loose end, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with myself. And the pandemic happened, and I'm like, whoa, okay. Fortunately, I had some money behind me, and I thought, you know what, I've been wanting to do this for years, and I sat down and I started writing a book. And so for 3 years, I I spent thousands and thousands of hours reading thousands of peer-reviewed papers in journals like the BMJ and the New England Journal of Medicine and the British Nutrition Journal, and just thousands of others. And I have written a book called The Building Blocks of Life.
Oh, amazing.
And it is intended for primary care practitioners. So that is GPs, pharmacists, practice nurses, midwives, none of whom get any kind of nutritional training. They know
Oh,
nothing about nutrition. And nutrition is the basis for all of us,
of course.
the thing we are.
Hmm.
What our grandparents ate informs our health and well-being now. What we ate when we were pregnant, if we have been pregnant, will inform the health and well-being of our children and their children. And
Oh,
GPs, pharmacists, midwives, practice nurses know nothing about this. I've got friends
that's
who are
amazing that you
pharmacists.
say that.
I've got friends who are pharmacists. I've got friends who are midwives.
Hmm.
I have spoken to practice nurses. I've spoken to GPs, and they will go, "No, we know nothing about this." So I'm like, you guys need to read my book.
Wow. I'm really amazed to hear you say that. Not even amazed, shocked to hear you say that, to be honest. Because I mean, when I was going to school in Jamaica, I did food and nutrition. Wasn't connected to anything. I just did it because I wanted to know how to cook. I didn't know that food and nutrition meant how the food affects your health, so all the lack of certain nutrients and how it affects. So the fact that that was just me in high school, just doing it on a whim. But if you're being trained in that area, you'd think that that would come in hand with all your sciences that you're doing. So it's
Yeah,
really shocking
you
to
would
hear you
hope,
say
wouldn't
that.
you? But they
Yeah.
don't, honestly. I mean, a friend of mine who is a consultant oncologist, she deals with cancer. The only thing she knows about nutrition is the stuff I've taught her, and then the stuff that she's gone off to find out for herself.
Wow.
She did 15 years of training to get where she is as a consultant oncologist, and not a single thing on nutrition in any of that. You know,
So how are they advising people on eating if they don't know nothing about eating?
well, they generally refer people to NHS dietitians the trouble is NHS dietitians very much do a one size fits all. Oh, you're a diabetic. This is the diet for you.
Yeah.
But this doesn't actually suit my lifestyle. This doesn't work for me because a lot of the foods on here I react really badly to.
Yeah.
You know, this doesn't work for me because I don't actually like any of these foods. And there isn't that understanding that every single person is an individual and that their relationship with food is as individual as they are. And it's there's nothing simple about nutrition, and yet at the same time, it is actually really, really simple. The really simple bit is eat real food.
Yeah.
Eat food that needs peeling and chopping and cooking and chewing. Don't eat the stuff that comes in the shiny packets, because the stuff in the shiny packets is something called ultra processed food that does you no favors at all. The only favor it does is it makes money for the food industry.
Of course, because it's got all the addictive products in it to make you want more of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The other thing with the NHS dietitians is they very much follow what the Department of Health and Social Care say is nutrition policy, because they're the people who set nutrition policy. Well, they were. Now it's the Office for Health Improvements and Disparities, I believe. Anyway, basically a rebrand, but pretty much the same as it was before. You know, same people, just rebranded. So what used to be Public Health England is now the Office for Health Improvements and Disparities. Basically, it's exactly the same people. They just got rebranded. And it's very important that government spends money on rebranding in times of economic uncertainty. Yeah. Because what else would they spend the money on, right?
I know.
Yeah. So, things like the vitamin D policy in this country, which says that everybody should think about, not necessarily do, but think about taking a 10 microgram vitamin D supplement in the autumn and winter, because you can't get enough from sunlight in autumn and winter. Well, actually, having written an entire chapter out this and read hundreds and hundreds of peer-reviewed papers and done some real serious deep digging, you can only make vitamin D from the sun when your shadow is shorter than you are. And that happens in the London area between the end of April and the beginning of September. If you're up in Glasgow, that happens between mid-May and mid-August. That's it. That is the time of year that you can make vitamin D from sunshine. That's it. You can't make it. You can stand outside naked on Christmas Day. You would thrill the neighbors. Possibly, I'm not sure I would thrill the neighbors, but anyway. You make any vitamin D at all, because you make vitamin D from sunlight when the angle of the sun in the sky is enough to allow a particular wavelength of light to get through the atmosphere.
Right.
It can only get through when the sun is above 45-degree angle. And when a sun is above 45-degree angle, your shadow is shorter than you are.
You see, we're all going to be walking around checking our shadows from now on. You know that.
This is the time of year where you can do it. But the other thing is, me with my dead fish white skin, which is, deeply unpleasant, I can go out in the sun and in 15 minutes I make enough vitamin D. But people with beautiful dark skins, because of our weak northern sunlight, they can't make enough vitamin D in that shorter space of time. They need much longer exposure. So what I can make in 15 minutes, Yasmin, you're slightly paler, so you would probably need 25 minutes. Beverly, you would probably need 35 minutes.
Oh.
I know. Pants, isn't it?
Is that because of the melanin? Is that the melanin levels?
Yeah, because darker skin is there to protect you against really intense sunlight.
Right.
We don't get that. We evolved these pale white skins to make vitamin D more effectively from the weak northern sunlight that we get here when we moved to Europe 50,000 years ago, whatever,
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
It is, isn't it? So what's the kind of things that your book covers? Because, like, trust me, I'm the building blocks of life. I'm all about that. Yeah.
It's written for healthcare professionals, so it is a bit technical. But if you've got an interest in the area, you can skip over the oh my god, please don't read the biochemistry, it's too confusing, and just get to the good bits. There's a lot of references in it. There's over 1,000 references in it. Because I wanted to produce something that healthcare professionals would understand was completely based on solid evidence. It's gosh, what am I talking about? I talk about nutrition basics. I've talked about malnutrition. Malnutrition isn't just old people not getting enough to eat. We've got real problems in this country with micronutrient shortfall. So there are two different groups of nutrients. There are macronutrients, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, fiber, water. And then there are micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, omega-3 fatty acids, and other things called phytonutrients, phyto of plants nutrients. Things like flavonoids and oh gosh, anyway, yeah, loads different types.
Okay, so everyone can find what they would be interested in.
Right.
Basically.
So there's a chapter on vitamin D. There's a chapter on conception, pregnancy, and fetal development. So an awful lot of time, people who can't conceive get shuffled off to IVF and end up spending a small fortune. Nobody looks at the nutrition of either party, but it takes 90 days to make sperm. And those sperm, to be healthy and viable, require quite a lot of nutrition. Nobody thinks about that, you know. Takes a huge, people go, oh yeah, folic acid, they don't know what it's for, mostly. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that, it's good for the baby. Actually, what it does is it protects that baby from developing something called neural tube defects, which are things like spina bifida and hydrocephalus, and they're awful defects that affect about 1,000 pregnancies a year in the UK. But 40% of pregnancies are unplanned. And in order to really give yourself that protection, you need to be taking that folic acid for at least 3 months before you get pregnant.
Yeah.
3 months of pregnancy. Most women don't know this. They don't teach this at secondary school. They should be teaching all.
As part of the sex education program, it should be all about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we now know that neural tube defects also are about vitamin B12 and vitamin B6 and something called choline and something called biotin, both of which are substances that work with the B complex. And my friend who's a midwife, when I was talking to her about this stuff, she's like, I don't know any of this. Literally. And I'm like, how do you not know this? You're the person who's talking to the person who's building the baby. They're building a human. You need a lot. It takes a lot of work. It takes to build a human. And if you don't have it, that baby will take it out of you. Which is why women lose teeth in pregnancy, because they don't have enough of specific nutrients. There's a chapter about obesity and how it's really not straightforward at all. It's incredibly complicated. It's not just calories in, calories out. There's a lot more to that.
Of course.
Yeah. There's a chapter about tired all the time, which is one of the most common reasons that people go to the GP. And there are lots and lots of different reasons why somebody could be tired all the time. It could be a viral infection. It could be a stress. It could be that they've got some kind of underlying condition. But it could also be nutrition. And in order to produce energy in our body, we need specific nutrition, and we need enough of it. And the diet in this country is so poor that an awful lot of the nutrients that we need for that, we just don't get enough of. Most of it. And actually, I've used government data to show that we're really low in a huge range of nutrients.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it is due to economic factors as well, because sometimes to have a good balanced range of organic foods, then, as you like, it's costly. It's cheaper to just pop down to Iceland, other shops are there, but to just go buy some, like you said, the processed frozen, just bung it in the oven. Time as well affects people not eating.
I think the time.
So they just bung it in the oven, microwave it, whatever, quick things. So it's like, and then because like on packaging, there's a lot of it, people don't understand packaging, and I'm one. I mean, I kind of try and have an idea, but it's just so much to read, and so many
Yeah.
words you don't understand, and you just think, you know, what's good, you don't know what's good, what's bad, what should, how much of what you should have, and it's like, yeah, it's very complicated. And when you've got time issues, no one got time for all this figuring out what, just grab anything and go. So it's,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, so new, yeah. So the fact that healthcare professionals that are your first point of call doesn't know, well, it's frightening. It's frightening.
Yeah. And a friend of mine, her daughter was having issues with her gut, constipation, and then all of a sudden, you know, huge diarrhea. And the GP went, it's got nothing to do with what she's eating. Here, she needs this medicine. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
You know,
It doesn't tell you nothing.
100 years ago, when you went to the doctor, you took your chamber pot, your gazunder with you, with the contents of what you'd put in it, you know, this morning. And the doctor would look at those and look at the color of your urine and the texture and consistency of your feces and the smell. And they would go, oh, this might be a bit of a problem. We think you might need. Now, obviously, they weren't working with the kind of understanding of how the human body works that we have now. But you know, that nobody looks at that stuff anymore. Who stands up and looks back in the toilet? I do, obviously. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Bristol stool chart.
Oh God, I love those.
Do you know it, Bev?
Yeah.
The Bristol stool chart. No.
But I have an idea why, by the context of the conversation, what you're talking about. It's a chart that lets you know, like, what if you've done a poo that looks like this. This could be the underlying factor of it. I ain't as stupid as I look. So yeah.
Oh, I am so impressed.
Really?
Yeah. No, I have looked at charts, but I didn't know if it's called Bristol. But yeah, like, you know, different textures. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So oh gosh, what else have I got chapters on? One of the best things about the book is actually in the back, there's one page for each of the nutrients. So what we've got here, for example, is we've got a page.
Okay. Oh, so what, we can look up the nutrients of individual things.
So it tells you the recommended intakes. It tells you whether that's a nutrient of concern in the UK. So do people get enough here or not? What it does, and what the risks are from not getting enough, what the risks are from getting too much, the food sources, and some additional notes, some other interesting stuff about it. You know?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds absolutely great.
13 vitamins, 17 minerals, omega-3s, omega-6s, and various other phytonutrients as well that are on the back of the book. And that's, I don't think anybody else has done that ever, you know.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's a
So that's what, like I said, all people think about is calories. It's just calories. That's it.
Yes,
not and how much fat, the macros, as you're saying. So like how much fat, how much what do you call it? What's the different fats? The
saturated, monounsaturated.
Yeah, that's all people think about. They don't think about all the other stuff.
And the really sad thing is, the big fat myth is a big fat lie. It's based on falsified science and people coming at this from completely the wrong ideas. Back in the 1950s, they started to think that cholesterol could be a problem, and they thought that cholesterol was just a fat, a dietary fat. And so they force-fed cholesterol and saturated fats to rabbits, but rabbits don't eat saturated fats and they don't make any cholesterol for themselves. So oddly enough, that experiment didn't turn out too well for the rabbits. But they went, oh, yes, we're definitely onto something. And they just followed that path. Now we know, and an awful lot of scientists all over the world are saying, you need to revise this. Actually, saturated fat isn't the demon that everybody says it is. It's good for us. We evolved. We spent several million years evolving eating saturated fats. And meat is also good for us, but not in the kind of huge quantities and the excessive processed quantities that we eat it in the West. Admittedly, we should be eating natural or more natural meat and less of it, and more plant foods, you know. But the whole big fat myth just winds me up. I write about a monthly article for a publication called Kent Bylines,
Okay.
and I'd be happy to send you the links.
Yes,
Okay, so
please.
it's a virtual publication then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's online, and it's all citizen journalism. So sadly, I don't get paid for it. But oh, gets the word out there. And I wrote a piece in that on the big fat myth. It makes me
Okay.
very, very cross. Actually, low fat products are really not good for you, because if you look at that ingredients list, it is, in order to make it,
You have to
halfway
process it.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
never buy anything that says that it's low fat. It's like, well, it can't be real food then.
exactly. And if you look at the ingredients list, it's full of all sorts of things that you wouldn't find in an ordinary domestic kitchen. And if there are things in that any product that you're going to eat that wouldn't be found in an ordinary domestic kitchen, you just put that back on the shelf and move on. You don't buy it.
Yeah, that's the advice. It sounds like great advice.
But that's the thing though. So sometimes we get so much advice, it's just confusing, because one minute, like even like for example, coconut oil, one minute coconut oil was no good for you, then it's good for you, then
It's great.
this is
It's
good
good.
for you,
It's
that's
fantastic.
not good for you. You know, it's like you
Oh,
just get
everybody's
confused. The different conflicting health myths, like so coconut milk one minute was good for you, then it's not, then
Yeah.
it is. And
Yeah.
you know, I grew up on boiled coconut oil. So my grandmother used to make
Wow.
it.
That's
So
why you've got such great skin.
no, but the smell of it and everything, because I used to have
I
to
love it. Yeah.
boil and boil it. But yeah, and then one minute now it's something that produces too much cholesterol for your body, and then it's like, no, coconut oil is good. And there was
Yeah.
something else I couldn't remember. There's something else that there was such conflicting. Oh, egg.
Yeah.
Please help me with egg, because I'm an egg lover.
No, that's good. Eggs are fantastic. Eggs are nutrition powerhouses. They're absolutely packed with brilliant nutrition, and they do not raise your cholesterol level. So, cholesterol is produced in the body by our liver, and our liver produces it from a number of different substances, but mostly from sugar. So, if you're eating a high sugar diet, you're going to have more cholesterol. If you're eating a diet with a lot of carbohydrates that are easily broken down within our body and turned into sugar, you're going to be producing a lot of cholesterol.
Okay.
Your age, your genetic heritage, your gender will also impact on how much cholesterol you do or do not produce. Children tend to produce less, you tend to produce more as you get older. We need cholesterol. It's really good for us. Every single cell in our body requires cholesterol to actually be part of the cell structure, the actual structure that forms the membrane. It's part of the structural foundations of our entire body. We can't live without cholesterol. We use it to make neurotransmitters. We use it to make hormones. We literally can't live without it. But too much is not necessarily a good thing.
Okay.
You can modify it in lots of different ways with what you eat. Eggs do not increase our cholesterol levels. They absolutely do not. They contain omega-3 fatty acids, depending on what the chickens have been eating, but they do contain huge amounts of protein. They contain a fantastic raft of B vitamins. They contain loads of minerals. They're brilliant. Carry on eating eggs. Just don't eat too many, because you'll never go to the toilet.
Because
Okay.
the reason I
Okay,
answer as well, because at the
Bev,
moment, no, let me ask this question, I beg you, please. Because at the moment, right, I'm preoperative for bariatric surgery.
Okay.
I am currently on a soup and yogurt diet to shrink my liver. Yeah?
Right. Okay.
I want an egg. I just want an egg.
no, yeah, TeeCee is not going to give you the
No,
okay
I'm
to
not
have
saying,
your
I'm
egg
not saying, I'm not saying I'm gonna
because
do it.
she's
I'm
been
just saying,
trying for the medics to
not
give her the
saying-
okay.
also, I'm just
Okay.
saying, yeah.
So, okay, right. Why are you on the list for bariatric surgery?
For weight loss.
Okay. All right. So I'm assuming you've been through counseling and you understand the pros and the cons, and the impact that it's going to have on your life forever after, and yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So the weight loss diet that they have put you on is one that will have been tried and tested. And I can't say yes, you can, because it's not down to me.
No, no, no,
You,
no. I'm not
you
expecting you
know,
to advise on that. I'm just
but
saying, like,
you want to shrink your liver.
yeah, that's what they say. Because they said because my stomach is under the liver, and for them to be able to have access to see what they're doing, so they have to shrink the liver, uh, like on a liver shrink diet, just to give them
I
access
know.
to what they're
Okay,
doing.
so what are you allowed to put into the soup?
No, it's processed canned soups. Yeah,
Okay,
Don't get TeeCee on a on a horse.
okay.
yeah. That I try to jazz up with some garlic and ginger and chili flakes and all the rest,
Mm-hmm.
and water it down a little bit, just jazz it up. But yeah, that's the saying.
Is it
Wow.
actually just out of interest? Is it a specific make or is it just any canned soup?
Well, they say in a nutshell, you can have any make, but it has to be of a certain, all the nutrient
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
levels.
yeah,
But because I don't have the math power to be sitting there calculating everything before I eat it. I just have the brands that
mm-hmm.
they've already pre-calculated and worked
Yeah.
out.
Hey, listen, I'd be doing the same thing, really, if I was in your position. Because honestly, who is going to stand there doing that in the middle of a supermarket? I mean, I understand packaging because I worked with it for 20 years, first with government and then with industry. So I can pick up a packet and I know exactly what I'm looking for. But even I am not going to stand there and calculate,
Mhm.
calorie levels in the middle of a supermarket because, quite frankly, life is too short, you
I
know.
tried it. I tried it once. I tried like their brand that they suggested because it wasn't there. I tried. All right, I picked up another one that's the same. What do you call it? Like say, I don't know, chicken and veg.
Ingredients.
So I
Yeah.
pick up chicken and veg. Okay, let me try and compare. Like, okay, based on this one said this, but this one's got more of that, and that one's got less of that. Like, you know what?
Yeah, it could go on forever though, couldn't
Yeah.
it?
No,
All right. So
absolutely.
Bev, you've asked your question.
Yeah, no, no, no,
Now
that's
what I
okay. Yeah,
would like
go on.
now I would like TeeCee to go
Mhm,
back
mhm.
to when you were talking about milk and
Okay.
like
Yeah.
Europe and Africa and so on.
Okay. Yeah. So we were talking about fat and the fat content of milk, and Beverly said that some people can't digest milk, and I said that's down to whether we do or do not produce an enzyme that allows us to do that. Everybody produces an enzyme that allows us to digest milk for the first 18 months of our life, after which, from an evolutionary perspective, we were supposed to be being weaned,
Yeah,
gradually weaned off the breast and onto solid foods.
Mm.
These days, it happens much earlier. Weaning these days, the recommendation is 5 to 6 months, you know, because women have busy lives, you know, and most women just don't have the time to continue to breastfeed for that length of time. They might partially continue to do it, but solid food is introduced much earlier as a general rule. But we seem to be okay, you know. Anyway, so whether you can or cannot digest milk, um, we need that enzyme, and it stops producing in an awful lot of the world's population at about 18 months to 2 years, because there hasn't had a long history of exposure to dairy products. So people of East Asian, so anything basically east of India, uh, they weren't exposed to milk from goats and sheep and cattle. Um, but people in the Middle East, people in South Asia, the Indian subcontinent, people in Europe, um, domestication of those animals, first of all, sheep and goats, and then eventually cattle, happened in the Middle East about 10,000 years ago, and they gradually spread out. But they stopped at the edge of Europe. They couldn't get to the Americas. So Native Americans don't have the enzymes to digest milk products because they were never exposed to it. Um, they got to the edge of India, and the Himalayas basically stopped them from transporting sheep and goat and cattle across. So people to the east of the Himalayas never really developed those enzymes. People to the south of the Sahara, so most of Africa, sheep and goat and cattle couldn't get across that huge expanse of desert, there wasn't any way for them to get across. Camels could do it, but they didn't start milking camels until a long time after the people within the Middle East started milking sheep and goats and cattle. So most of sub-Saharan Africa, also individuals with a heritage from sub-Saharan Africa, don't actually manufacture the enzyme that enables them to effectively digest milk. And so when you put milk into somebody's system, when they don't have the enzyme to digest it, it can create all sorts of potential problems. It can set up allergic reactions, not just to milk, but to all sorts of other things. Because we're not designed, somebody without that enzyme, their body will go, oh, right.
Or they become very windy.
They can do, yes, absolutely. They can get diarrhea. They can feel nauseous. They can develop all sorts of other food allergies. And an awful lot of it can be traced back to consumption of dairy products. That's not in the book. That's a whole separate thing.
So the building blocks of life.
Yes.
All right. Immediately we know what your intention is, but I'd like you to say out loud, where would you like your book to be or go to?
Well, I would like all GPs in the UK to read it. I would like all pharmacists in the UK to not just read it, buy it and read it. I would like all midwives in the UK to buy it and read it, but I don't think they're going to, because nobody's got the time. I would like ordinary people who have an interest in the area to buy it and read it. It's never going to make me a huge amount of money, but one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is I'm developing training sessions for GPs and pharmacists and midwives on.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was heading towards that, but
yeah.
I was just going to ask if you would take it in the academic spectrum as well, because
so I said 2 hours of CPD seminar. So where I basically spend an hour giving it, and I can do that, as you ladies know. And then we have a 15-minute break where everybody goes to go, oh my God, have a cup of tea and go to the loo. And then they get to throw questions at me and I field them and answer them. So, good value for money. Plus I go,
take them with
hand
you
in
and
hand.
get it out there.
Yeah. So so far I've put together one for midwives. I've put together one on vitamin D. I'm putting together one on obesity. I'm going to do tired all the time. I'm going to do fertility, because fertility for men and women is very different. And I'm going to do one on pregnancy and conception for GPs, which isn't as technical as the one that I'm going to do for the midwives.
Okay.
If somebody says, "Oh, can you do one about X, Y, or Z?" I would go, "Yes, right. Absolutely. This is the plan." That's the plan. That is the plan.
Well, that's well. You see, she's told us her plan. So
you're going to end up having like an encyclopedia of nutrition, basically.
But I'm so passionate about this stuff, and it really. I get so upset when people don't know this, because to me it's so important.
Yeah.
And so my teenager, if we're out and somebody says something and then he hears the vitamin D, he's like, oh my God, she's off again. We were walking home through the park one evening. I was drunk. And there was a church group sitting, having a conversation. They were talking about vitamin D, and I screeched to a halt and went, oh, you're talking about vitamin D. That's one of my special subjects. And I then gave them a 15-minute lecture on vitamin D, drunk in the park one evening. And my kid is like, oh my God, just so embarrassing.
Well, if you're passionate about it, you're passionate about it. There's no way of holding you back on that subject, is there?
Absolutely.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Please tell me you're both taking vitamin D.
I can't.
You're both taking vitamin D?
I don't take tablets, if that's what you mean.
Okay. So vitamin D isn't just about bone strength, but that is a really important factor. It's also about muscle function. It's also about mental health. It's also about energy metabolism. It's also about immune function. One of the reasons that COVID knocked out and killed so many individuals of Afro-Caribbean, African, and South Asian origin was because they have such low levels of vitamin D. I'm absolutely convinced of that. There's been so much work done on the importance of vitamin D in relation to immunity, in relation to COVID, particularly since COVID happened. So you don't have to take a tablet. You can buy oral sprays where you spray inside your mouth with vitamin D, right? And because you can't make enough from sunshine, you can't make as much as I do from sunshine, you guys need to take more. So the government says 10 micrograms, but 10 micrograms is only just enough to keep people who aren't already deficient at a level that the whole of the rest of the world views as being deficient. The UK government says it's fine.
Because I don't understand the packaging behind vitamin D. Because you see, was it MUI or something like that? 1,000 MUI and 5,000. I don't understand what all that means.
Okay, so hang on a second. I'm just going to grab a pen and I'm going to write it down. Okay.
I'm on prescribed calcium chews. That's vitamin D and calcium. Okay, MG.
Yeah. So it's a very strange little symbol. It's actually called a mu. It's a Greek symbol, and that means microgram. So that strange little U symbol and then a G is microgram. It's sometimes written as IU.
Which is
international units. So 1,000 IU is the same as 25 micrograms. Okay. So throughout autumn and winter, and frankly, all year round, if you don't get any sun exposure, to be honest, you guys should be taking 50 micrograms of vitamin D every day. Now, you can get mouth sprays, deliver a 25 milligram dose, microgram, not milligram, oh my God, microgram dose. Just give yourself 2 mouth sprays. You can also get it in oil. So you just put drops in your mouth. And again, they usually come in 25 microgram dosage. So a single drop carries 25 micrograms.
All right.
You're taking
the calcium chew. So it's a combination of calcium and vitamin D.
Right. Okay. So I think the vitamin D content in a calcium chew is 1,000 IU, I believe, which is 25 micrograms. I think.
Right. Okay.
But you'd need to check the packaging for that.
Yeah.
If it is, then go down to any health food shop and get an additional 25 microgram dosage. And when you're taking the calcium and when you're taking vitamin D, if you're taking it as a tablet, you have to take it with a meal that has fat in it, because vitamin D is fat soluble. And if you take it with black coffee and toast with no butter on it, it's going to go straight through and not get absorbed. You need that toast with butter in order to absorb
well, this is it, because I did a little. I know that.
Anyway, we've come to a stage where we're going to have to round up. Apart from very, very excited about this book, I actually feel I would even go as far as to say it's a coffee table book as well. I'm sure it's got loads of stuff in there that people could discuss, TeeCee.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I'm really hoping that it's going to capture people's interest. I mean, obviously, I love it. Sorry, just things beeping. I love it, but you know, I'm slightly biased to do it. But yeah, I'm really hoping that the way I've written it, my passion for this stuff, I'm hoping it comes across.
It comes across. I'm sure it will. Yeah. And when is it actually going to be available?
It's available now. It was.
So where is your book available
from? They told me anywhere online.
Okay.
Amazon, the publishers, Routledge, Blackstocks. I mean, any of the online bookshops.
Okay.
Bookshop.org. You know, they will all have it. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Okay, so the Building Blocks for Life is now available.
Yes. The Building Blocks of Life.
Of
Yeah.
life.
Of life.
Of life. Yeah.
That's me. The
Yeah.
building blocks of life is
Yeah.
now available.
Excellent.
All right.
All
But
right.
anyway,
Well, thank you very much. You
Pleasure.
know, yeah, it was a pleasure hearing everything that you've got planned to share, and hopefully that the medical, you know,
Oh God,
will take on.
yeah.
I hope
You
so.
know?
I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's make that a wrap.
Yeah,
Thank you, ladies.
it's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Thank